A couple of weeks ago I made this 2 foot by 2 foot reverse dip pour on hardboard that I bought from Lowe's, and I wasn't sure what I was going to do with it once it was done. My brother convinced me to put it on his CNC machine and cut out a perfect circle and made a clock out of it. So we had to do 2 low-level passes to cut everything out, but here is the end result. I think it turned out much better than if I would have tried to do it on my own router. So because it's only 1/8 of an inch thick, I can't do a lot with it, so I wanted to attach another 1/8 inch thick piece of wood to it to give it some stability, and also both of these boards weren't quite flat, so I'm hoping that by gluing them together it gives me the stability that I really need for this. So after centering it on the piece of wood, I make sure that it's nice and sealed. And just to make sure, I'm going to put this flat piece of wood that I have and then weights that I have on all the different sections, trying to get as much even weight as I can across the whole thing while it dries, so that the moisture from the glue will help the wood become a little bit more elastic, and then hopefully it will dry completely flat. Now that this glue is dry, I did flip it over because I didn't want the lines or the stars to show up in my pour, but it looks great and it's nice and flat now and deep enough for me to put a clock kit through it. But before we do that, the sides are very rough, so I'm just using 220 grit sandpaper, putting it on a 2x4 that I had, and giving it a nice sand on all of the sides. This took quite a long time, but I really like how the end result turned out. Now we got to find the center of this so I can drill the hole for the clock. It's not as easy as it looks. I don't have the right tools for it, so I just took a couple of measurements across and kept my pencil where it was kind of right in the middle for that section, and just made sure it was the middle in all sorts of different sides. Last but not least, I want the edges to be white, so I'm just using some white acrylic paint and a foam brush. I had to do 2 or 3 coats, and I had to make sure I cleaned off the paint on top so I didn't get any white pieces. On the back, I didn't worry about cleaning the paint off, and I just sanded it off. This took forever, but it looks great now that it's all done. I want to resin the top to give it a nice, beautiful shine, so I'm going to tape this off and just cut the tape on the edge. This makes it way easier to remove the resin before it fully cures. This is just CraftSmart resin that I have. It's a 50-50, so 1 part hardener and 1 part of the resin. We're going to mix that together. The instructions say you want to mix it for at least 5 minutes, and obviously I don't want to show me mixing it for 5 minutes here. The other thing to keep in mind with this is I have never had a resin where I followed the instructions and it didn't work. So make sure you read the instructions multiple times, follow them to a T, and you should get some great results. Mixing has got to be the worst part of this. Nice and slow, over and over. There's a lot of bubbles at the end, but those really won't hurt it because I'm going to use the torch you see in the background there to remove all the bubbles once they're done. Now, I don't normally wear gloves. Resin is the one place where I will wear gloves. Unfortunately, my hands are so big and I haven't found a good pair of gloves that don't just rip immediately. But with this self-leveling resin, I'm just making sure that I cover everything, that there aren't any spots that didn't get touched by it. And you can see as I'm doing this with my hand that the resin levels itself even in minutes after I start moving it around. I want to make sure they get the sides and that I don't leave any on my bare skin. Now we're just going to torch to get all those bubbles out. I usually torch for a minute or 2. Look at that nice, beautiful shine. Taking the resin off, I wait about 24 hours so it's cured but not fully cured, and then I just heat it up on the side and pull the tape off. It comes off quite quickly. Every once in a while I have to use a pair of tweezers, but it works great. Now we have the hole that I marked, so I'm just going to put a little divot with my screwdriver, and from there I will have a perfect place to drill my hole. There is a hole in the table, so I'm not going to be going through the table also. Unfortunately, I didn't calculate this correctly, and so when I tried to put my clock piece in it, it wasn't wide enough. So I need to get a slightly larger bit and do the same thing. I probably should have put my little towel here to protect it from scratches and things, but I'm not always the smartest person when it comes to getting a job done. So, but as you can see, my clock kit now fits right inside. The one problem I do have now is the back is a little bit too thick. So I'm just going to measure the clock kit on the back, and I'm going to take a flat router bit and just dig out a little bit of my second layer so that I have enough sticking out on the other side to put the bolt onto. Now it fits and I have enough room to put that bolt on. I've got these kits from Amazon. I'll link that in the description below. They got a bunch of different clock hands to use. I decided on the gold hands just because I liked how it looked. I do change my mind later, which I'll show you at the end of the video. But it's relatively easy to put together. Then we connect the battery and voila, we have a clock that works. All right, I really love how this clock turned out. As you can see, I decided to change out the hands to the black. I think it makes it jump out a lot better, and you can see how shiny that resin coat is. It really just adds an extra layer of depth to this painting turned into clock. So the question I have for you guys is, should I add numbers or just leave it as an art statement piece? Let me know in the comments below. Also, if you would like to create art like this is a reverse dip pour. The artist Fiona actually does it quite a bit on her YouTube channel. I show you how I made this piece in this video here.